Well, hello, we're working on project 2 and we're ready to go move into doing first drafts. Assuming you've posted the sketches that were required, we're ready to move on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Adobe Illustrator. So I have a doc down at the bottom and you can't see it, but I'm going to open Illustrator. There we go, because I'm on a Mac. We're going to create a new document, and according to the instructions for the project, where it says first drafts, we want to ensure that we are doing the proper thing, and it says to create a 10 by 8 inch artboard in Illustrator. So this is a horizontal document. You don't probably want to use the grids that I supplied. We're going to create new ones. We're going to execute the full name in 2 artboards. Now I'm going to show you how to create artboards. It's not 2 Illustrator documents. It's like 2 separate pages, for lack of a better word, in Illustrator. And we're going to do the full name again. And if you have less than 10 letters, which I know at least one of you has less than 10 letters, then go ahead and execute your middle name as well. So we're going to have 2 artboards in one Illustrator document with the full name all caps and the full name lowercase, and then we'll have another Illustrator document with 2 artboards with a separate design, and I'll just show you what we're doing here. So I open up Illustrator and I create a new document by going to File, New. The keyboard shortcut for new is Command N on a Mac. It'd be Control N on a PC. So I hit Command N. Now you can name the document if you'd like. I'll call it First Draft Set 1. And here where it says size, you want to change the width to 10 inches by 8 inches. Okay, this will make a 10 inch by 8 inch artboard. Don't worry about your bleed or anything else. Just hit OK. And here we have a 10 by 8 inch document. So we're going to create a new artboard. If you click on the artboard tool and click, you'll see that the artboard 1 is already made. To make a new artboard, we're going to go to the Tools panel and we'll find the artboard button. There it is. It says artboards. If that's not on your panels out here that you can collapse, then you would want to go to Window and click on artboards and it will pop up. I'm going to pull this out so we can see it a little bit better. I can always park it back to that panel dock. So the first artboard is called artboard 1, and we want to create a new artboard. And to create a new artboard, because we're going to do upper and lower case in 2 separate artboards, we want to click on this new artboard button. Now, because we are grandfathered in, this artboard should be identical to the original artboard. Okay? So I'm going to hit Command and minus on a PCB, Control minus, and you'll see these 2 separate artboards. It's like 2 separate pages. So we have 2 artboards in this document. I'm clicking back on my selection tool. Again, to find artboards, to be Window, Artboards, and you want to probably park that back down on the dock. And to do that, you click and drag that over to this panels dock. Okay, now we're going to talk about grids. We know we used them to sketch with, but how did I create those grids in the original Illustrator documents? You're probably wondering. What I did is I went to Illustrator Preferences. Now I'm going to use Guides and Grids. If you're on a PC, it would be Edit, and you find the word Preferences. And the same menu will pop up. So you want to go for Mac, go to Illustrator, Preferences, Guides and Grid. If you're on a PC, you want to go to Edit, find the Preferences and Guides and Grid there. Now what I did for the smaller grid, which I think was very useful, is I did a grid line every ½ inch, and there were subdivisions of 8. That means 8 little lines per ½ inch. That made the grid pretty small, which means I could do more detail. Now you can always set this anything you want, even in the middle of working on a document, and I do that often. Now you don't see the grids because I don't have the view to show you where to turn on the grids. So I have to click on View, and I have to show grid to be able to actually see it. Now you'll notice that when I was in Preferences, Guides and Grids, the grids are going to be in the back of the imagery that I'm working on. If you want those in the front, you could uncheck that, but it gets too visually noisy for me. Okay, now I need to bring up my layers. Layers are over here in this panel dock. If you don't see the layers, you can go to Window and Layers, and it will pop up. Now again, I'm going to tear that off of the dock. Here we go. The reason why I'm doing that is so you can see the whole thing. Now I probably want to create like a template layer that I'm going to use to place my sketch on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to place my sketch in this first panel. And how do I place my sketch? Well, I go to File and Place. And I'm going to my desktop, to my Project 1 modular letters, to my sketches. I'm going to go to my refined set of sketches and I'm going to place that. There we go. Now this was a 8-inch wide by 10-inch tall document, so it's going to be slightly different. The other thing too is my grid lines of my Illustrator file are going to probably be a little different than the grids here, so I might want to resize that. To resize a graphic in Illustrator, there is a scale tool. You want to make sure you hold down the Shift key. If you don't, it won't size things in proportion. It'll get everything will go out of proportion. You do not want things out of proportion ever. That includes type, images, everything. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking to see if my grid lines on my sketch more or less match up to the grid lines that I'm currently using in Illustrator. So let me put my layers over here so I can see what's going on. Looks like I need to make that just a little bit smaller. Again, I'm choosing the scale tool. I hold down Shift. Unfortunately, I have to go to a corner node to do this. Shift, and then I drag to resize. Now I'm going to go back to the selection tool, move it around, see if I can figure out. Oh, now I did it too small. So this takes a little bit of time to get this to be accurate. So give yourself a little time here. Alright, that looks like it's close enough. Now, what I'm going to use this for is I'm going to use this to kind of count my little grid segments that I've used on this type. I'll use it as kind of a thing under my letters to draw from. So what you want to do is go ahead and lock that layer. You can rename the layer by double clicking on it, and I'm going to call it Sketch. There we go. Now when it's locked, it won't move, so you click on it, nothing moves, and there's a little eyeball, just two little squares to the left of the name of the layer. If you need to turn that off at any time, it'll turn it off. It does get rid of the grid lines until at least I get another layer on here. So you don't want to draw on this layer. You want to draw on a separate layer. To create a separate layer, again, let me bring layers out here. You would click on the New Layer button, which is the little dog-eared page, and I might call this my capital name, or name in caps. That may make some more sense to me. Name in caps, and that's going to be where I put all of my letters for my capital name. Now what will happen is when I turn off the sketch layer, you'll actually see the grid because we have a second layer. Without a second layer, you don't see the grid. Okay, so I'm going to turn that back on. Now another thing you can do is you can screen back this layer. Right now it's really dark, and when I go to draw over it, I might not be able to see what I'm doing. So if you double click on the icon for that layer, you can dim the image, and you can set it to 50%, you can set it to whatever is desirable for you. So I might do -30. There's no preview. So I hit OK. There we go. Now I'm going to make sure that layer is locked. It's not going to move. And I'm going to go to my name in caps layer, and I'm going to start drawing. Now, right now I can draw just about anywhere, but eventually I'll have to align things up and move them. But I have to narrow down which two typeface designs got the most votes, or I like the most. This one looks really challenging. The one with the missing letters, so, or missing negative spaces. So, you know, I like a challenge, so I might go with that one. And, oh, let's see. I really appreciate this one too. This one's really ornate. So I just have to decide based off a critique which ones I should go for. To keep it simple for the demonstration, I might just go with this one and this one. But I'll start with this one, which was my sketch 6A. Now I should have sketched more letters. In the instructions it says to sketch 3 letters that are in your name. And a lot of you guys got a little confused and you only did what I did, which was 1 letter upper and lowercase, but you guys were supposed to sketch 3 letters upper and lowercase to kind of get the hang of how wide lowercase letters should be, uppercase letters, and so on. Now I'm going to unlock this layer that has the sketch on it. I'm going to move this because I might want to start drawing over here towards the left. And when I'm moving in, I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to see if I can try my best to align my grid. Let me park my layers over here. My horizontal and vertical grid lines. You can see here's a strong horizontal, here's a strong vertical, and I'm trying to match those up. It'll make it easier for me when I'm sketching. Now again, I'm going to go to layers, I'm going to lock that layer. And I'm back on the name on caps layer. I'm going to move my layer up just a little bit so when I fly that window out you can see the bottom. Okay, now hit Command 0 on a PC, that's Control 0. Again, bring your layers out, make sure that's locked. And I'm going to start by building my letter R similar to the way I have it here. Now this might be a good opportunity to go ahead and bring the grid lines to the front. Normally I don't, but you can't see them. So I'm going to go to Illustrator and go to Preferences. Now again, this would be Edit Preferences in PC. And I'm going to go Grids and Guide, and I'm going to bring those grids to the front by unchecking Grids and Back. And now I can see my little grid lines a lot better. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Rectangle tool. But before I start with that, I want to go down here and make sure the fill is black and the stroke is none. To make the stroke none, the stroke is like this square, hollow shape. Click on it, make sure it's in front of this. Don't click the swap fill and stroke. What that does, it makes the stroke black and the fill of white. So I want the fill of black and the stroke of none. Right now it's white. So click on the stroke, make sure it's in the front, and then click on the none button. There will be no stroke on the thing that I'm about ready to draw. So I'm using just the rectangle tool. We're keeping this pretty simple. And I'm going to start working on duplicating what I've drawn here. Now what I might have to do on this layer is, I know I screened it back pretty far, but I need to count how many segments each of these little shapes takes up. So I know these are divided by 8 and there's 2 empty ones, so this must be 6 segments wide. And this particular item here is 4 segments long. Now, I can either draw and try to snap it right into that box, which will be a lot of time spent trying to clean it up, or I can use good digital craft in the first place. I want my tools to snap right to this grid. So I need to go to View, and I need to choose Snap to Grid. You want, when you're clicking and dragging, you want it to snap perfectly. You don't want to guess about what's happening in your piece. So here we have a simple way to work out the shapes in my piece. Now, I'll teach you how to get these overlaps to kind of come together as one shape. Right now I'm just getting the basic shapes down. And again, this is going to be a little imperfect because the sketch wasn't photographed straight, but I think I'll be able to manage. So I'm just clicking and dragging. It's okay to overlap these shapes. And trying not to be confused about where they should start or stop. So here it is. Let me turn off this layer. there's the first segment of the main stroke of my R. And I'm going to keep on, by the way, you can always unlock, excuse me, not turn off, but unlock your sketch layer. If you need to get to align to the grid a little bit better, click on it. Maybe use the arrow key to arrow it and move it around. With Snap to Grids on, it's going to definitely snap to the grid, so you may have to turn that off. What I'm trying to do, maybe if I click and hold, it'll show me live. Nope. What I'm trying to do is just move this so it kind of aligns better to that grid for that letter, and then I'll lock it back. And then I'll continue drawing. And it's not letting me because I'm on the wrong layer. I'm still in the sketch layer, so I need to click on the right layer. And again, you might want to be careful and count how many squares. Oops, let me hit Command Z a couple times. I want to turn back on Snap to Grid, otherwise this is going to be a mess. So we're going to keep on drawing until this letter is complete. So you can see that it's not really taking that long because this is a bitmapped type of typeface. We don't have to worry about curves. Curves take a while. Straight lines don't take very long at all, or square segments. Just don't take very long at all. So I know this isn't all that exciting. Again, I'm going to unlock this layer with my sketch. I'm going to move it over because it's slightly crooked. Oops, I have to turn off Snap to Grid, but I got to remember to turn it back on here in a second. There we go, that's a little bit better. Lock that, go back to View, turn on Snap to Grid. By the way, the keyboard shortcut is Shift, Command, and apostrophe. So here we go. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. And it looks like I have one there, one there, one there. Gosh, I can't tell if that's just one over. I can always go back and draw more. 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, a couple there. So I'm just, oops, Command Z, or Control Z is undo on the Mac, or on a PC is Control Z. Mac it's Command Z. Oh, I know this is like watching paint dry, so I'm trying to hurry up and get it done. I'm going to turn off my sketch layer, and there I have my first letter R, capital. Now I'm going to go to File and Save, and I want to make sure that I save it to my Project 1 folder. So make sure you're organized. Mine's on my desktop, Project 1. First draft set.ai, save it. I'll just hit OK here. So there's my letter R. Now, capital. Now I'm ready to do the E and the B and the CC and the A and my last name. So I haven't done any sketches for any of those. So for now, I think what I'll do is I'll unlock this layer and I'll bring the lowercase r over to my other artboard. Excuse me, how about I copy it, I cut it, which is Command X, go over to my other artboard, and I'll paste it. There we go. And then I gotta find my lowercase r, there it is. I'm gonna start sketching it somewhere over here. Nice thing about grids in the front is I can actually try my best to match these grid lines. Let me turn Snap to Grid off to try to do this. But I'm going to try to match my horizontal and vertical grid lines. Now this can be a little confusing because you can't really, they don't make them thicker when the grids are in front. It's very interesting that they didn't do that. So I'll just try to get them to match up square to square. That looks pretty good. It's slightly off, but no big deal. So I'm going to go back to my layers. Oops, that's the artboard. There we go. Lock that. And I'm ready to start drawing my lowercase r. Now what I'm going to do is create another layer, and I'm going to call it Name in Lowercase. Alright, so I want to make sure I've selected that layer before I start drawing, otherwise I'm on the wrong layer. Now I'm going to on purpose draw on the wrong layer so I can share with you how to move your object from one layer to another. So let me turn back on Snap to Grid. Be a good idea to learn that keyboard shortcut since I'm going there so often. Shift Command and apostrophe on a PCB, Shift Control and apostrophe. I'm going to draw this lowercase letter r, and then once I realize I'm on the wrong layer, I will show you how to move things from one layer to the next. And again, my sketches are, I mean, they're not super rough, but they're rough enough that it's a little difficult to follow the grid here, but it's not too bad. You'll see sometimes I overlap stuff. It's because it doesn't matter if you overlap, it's the same color. So there's the R for that. Now I'm going to turn off the sketch area. I'm going to click and drag using this selection tool. You don't want to click right on something, it'll move it. But you click just outside of something in the white space on the artboard and drag. It's context sensitive to grab the whole thing. So my whole little lowercase r is accidentally drawn on the layer that's called name in caps, or where I put my capital name. So what I do is when I select all those, again that's a click and a drag. Make sure you're not touching anything when you click. So this will be out in the white part of the artboard and drag over those items. You'll see that in the layer that it's on, there is a little square to the far right, and that square indicates that that selected artwork is on this current layer. So what you can do with that little square is drag it to the layer that it's supposed to be on. Now layers are color coded. This is why the bounding boxes turn green, and on the other layer the bounding boxes are red. Now I'm going to hit Command 0. That would be Control 0 on a PC, and also Command minus. And you can see that on one artboard I have a capital letter, on the other I have a lowercase letter. Now I'm going to continue creating these letters and doing some analyzation, but it's going to take a long time on this video. So I'm going to build my entire first name and last name in all caps and all lowercase, and then I'll show you the end result.